Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. I did tell everybody that I would do this once I heard back from a few people telling me about some of the diagnoses that they have, been getting confused with. Some of the ones that they're kind of like struggling to, tell the difference between. This is only part one. I'm not, like I told everyone in my video this morning, I am striving to make these videos hopefully 20 minutes or under. I don't want to be sitting here 40-50 minutes because it can get quite lengthy. Then I do feel like some people are just like, okay, just end it already. I'd rather have like 10-20 videos that are like 10-15 minutes in length versus some that are just like an hour long or something. So I promise not to do that to you all. But yes, we are going to be going over some of the diagnoses that are kind of like sometimes similar to one another, and to kind of go over how you tell them apart from each other when you do see them in the practice questions and also on the actual exam. So I have a few. I think there's a few that I do, and then I'm going to do like 2 questions or something towards the end. So this is one that someone talked to me about, PTSD and acute stress disorder. Major differences between the two of them, and the primary difference between the two of these is the duration of symptoms and the time frame once that traumatic event happens, right? So when we take a look at acute stress disorder, we're looking at 3 days to 1 month. 3 days to 1 month is it. But when you're looking at PTSD, it's beyond 1 month. That is the longer lasting one, PTSD. Acute stress is considered short term. It's not there always. Post-traumatic stress disorder is long term. You get a vignette that's talking about a traumatic event that occurred, and it happened a week after. You can't say it's PTSD. It will be acute stress disorder because PTSD has to be 1 month. The symptoms have to persist for 1 month after the traumatic event has occurred. So pay attention to the time frame and the duration of the symptoms in any different vignette that you have for a DSM-5 question. Now, these two right here, very easy to tell the difference between the two of them. PDD is 2 years. MDD is 2 weeks. That is a huge difference between them. But when you see like a question in a vignette that's like with the symptoms for MDD, make sure you see 2 weeks, 14 days. If it's anything less than that 14 days or that 2 weeks, then it's not going to be MDD. You need to automatically rule it out, right? For MDD, you're going to be seeing things in a vignette that talks about a depressed mood, feeling very sad, tired, sometimes they'll mention some of the depressive symptoms are like ways of looking at once doing things that you liked and then now you just don't want to do them anymore. Or you may see something about suicidal ideation that might be mentioned there. For PDD, 2 years for adults, 1 year for children. It's milder, but it's chronic. It's like it's there, and it's most of the time. Most days you're feeling down most of the time. That is how you tell the difference between PDD and MDD. Now, sometimes in the vignette, they're not going to come out and be like, oh, for 2 years. Sometimes they won't. They'll just be like, oh, for years now, this has been happening. That lets you know it's PDD instead of the MDD, because MDD has to be the 2 weeks. That is how you tell the difference between the two of them, right? PDD, milder symptoms, chronic, down most of the time. MDD, 2 weeks worth of symptoms. It's severe, it's acute. 5 or more symptoms: depressed mood, suicidal thoughts, fatigue, feeling this worthlessness, losing interest in things that you want, what you once liked to do, suicidal ideation. That's the difference between those two. Okay, so for these two, oppositional defiant, ODD, versus conduct, which is CD. ODD typically starts at the age of 8, right? ODD does not include aggression, destruction of property, or violating the rights of others. When you get a vignette that does not include that in there, then 9 times out of 10, it's not ODD, it's going to be CD, right? So ODD is going to come with temper tantrums, purposely annoying someone else, arguing with adults, right? Then they'll be easily annoyed, right? That's ODD. Some of the core words that you need to look for on the exam is angry, argumentative, defiant. It's ODD. CD, child onset or adolescent, right? There's an age that you have to pay attention to. Sometimes in the diagnosis, you have to pay attention to the ages that is being included, because that will tell you if that person can be diagnosed with that or not, right? CD, conduct disorder, it's more severe, right? Legal issues, right? At risk for having what? ASPD, antisocial personality disorder in adulthood, right? Now, 3 out of the criteria in the last 12 months, and that is going to be the what? Bullying, fighting, cruelty, destruction of property, vandalism, arson, lying, shoplifting, stealing, serious violations where you're infringing on the rights of others as well as the law. That's CD. CD is much more severe than ODD. ODD is mild. CD is the more severe. ODD age 8. CD, child onset before the age of 10. But you cannot diagnose someone with CD when they turn 19. Only up to the age of 18. I hope that makes sense. ODD is mild. CD, much more severe. So I also got feedback for the schizophrenia spectrums, right? Schizophrenia, when we see schizophrenia, there are some of them, like the schizophrenia spectrums, they overlap with each other, especially when you see hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thinking. However, for schizoaffective disorder, you are going to have a depressive and a manic phase. That's the difference between schizoaffective disorder and schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking. But schizoaffective, you are also going to have the hallucinations, the delusions, the disorganized thinking, which is going to come with depressive or manic phase. In schizoaffective, psychosis occurs with and without mood symptoms, right? In schizophrenia, mood symptoms can occur, but they are brief and they are not very central to the diagnosis like it is for schizoaffective. Does that make sense? I'm hoping I am making sense to everyone. And if I'm not, please leave a comment. Please let me know if you need more clarification on this. Now, schizophrenia versus brief psychotic disorder. Simple and easy, because the difference between these two, the major difference between these two is the duration. Schizophrenia, symptoms 6 months, with 1 month of the symptoms must be active. That's the psychosis, right? That's the delusions, hallucination, disorganized speech. Grossly disorganized, catatonic, negative symptoms, the flat affect. Those are the symptoms for schizophrenia. At least 6 months, 1 month with active symptoms, right? Brief psychotic is just what it says it is. 1 day, but less than 1 month. That is the huge difference, right? The symptoms are the same psychotic symptoms as schizophrenia, but the only thing that is different is the length of time. Schizophrenia, 6 months with 1 month active symptoms. Brief psychotic disorder, 1 day to less than 1 month. Same symptoms. I hope that makes sense. Then we have these two. Now forgive me, because the schizophrenia form, I hope I pronounced it the right way, schizophrenia versus the schizophrenia form disorder is symptoms last at least 1 month, but less than 6 months. Less than 6 months. If the symptoms persist beyond 6 months, that makes it schizophrenia, because schizophrenia is what? 6 months with 1 month of active symptoms. Schizophrenia form, at least 1 month, but it has to be less than 6 months. Same symptoms for both of these. The only difference is the duration of the symptoms. That is it. I hope that makes sense. If I don't, leave a comment. Let me know if you feel confused about anything, you're just still not getting it. And then maybe I can possibly do another video. I can do more questions regarding them. Okay? So I think I have some questions here for schizophrenia. And of course, we got a question from our favorite AI friend, ChatGPT. Thank you so much, ChatGPT, for being here with us again. So, and we're going to go through this again like I talked about in my earlier video about the diagnosis questions. So we have a 28-year-old woman. She presents 2 weeks after surviving a serious car accident. So that's a traumatic event, right? That's a traumatic event that she's had, right? Her close friend was killed. She's got some more trauma too. She reports intrusive memories of the accident, difficulty sleeping, irritability, hypervigilance, and efforts to avoid reminders of the trauma. So we got some traumatic symptoms going on here. She also experiences a persistent inability to feel positive emotions and a sense of detachment from others. These symptoms has persisted for 12 days, and we got a time frame there, and cause significant impairment to her functioning. Now, this is the question. Based on the DSM-5 criteria, what is the most appropriate? Which one of these diagnoses is presented strongly in this vignette? Is it A? Is it PTSD? Is it going to be ASD? Is it going to be adjustment disorder with anxiety? Or is it going to be unspecified, meaning we don't have enough information to even have like an accurate diagnosis at this time? So take a look at this, take a look at it again, read through it, look at the symptoms, look at the length of time, the duration that they have in there, and then take a look at the answer responses and see out of the answer responses, which one of these answer responses is the most appropriate for the symptoms and the details that are presented in this vignette. And then we're going to take a look at the breadcrumbs that I did for it. And we're going to work through it like we always do. So here it is. A says PTSD. Now we've got some symptoms for that, right? We've got some symptoms presented. And if you take a look at the yellow that's matched at the top, we've got some intrusive memories of the accident, difficulty sleeping, irritability, hypervigilance, efforts to avoid reminders of the trauma. That's PTSD symptoms, right? But the time frame that is listed is not long enough, so automatically eliminate it. C says adjustment disorder with anxiety. Time frame is not long enough for that to be that answer. Adjustment disorder is what, 3 days or 3 months, right? Not long enough, too short. So D says unspecified trauma and stress related. We have enough information for an accurate diagnosis here, and the accurate diagnosis is acute stress disorder because the time frame matches that, right? It says she also experienced a persistent inability to feel positive emotions and a sense of detachment. And I put that in blue to just be like, was this really needed? Was this really needed in this question? Sometimes it's just like, oh, get that out of here. Forget it. Who needs it? Nobody needs to hear that, right? But yes, that lets us know that B is the correct answer. The time frame matches it. It's acute stress, right? It's not more than 1 month, right? Because PTSD, we need more than 1 month, right? But acute, because it's such a short time frame, 12 days, we say it's acute, right? And then this is the answer to rationale. Timing is key. And I love how they say that. Timing is key because the symptoms began within 3 days of the trauma and is less than 1 month, specifically the 12 days, which means the time frame from ASD and not PTSD. That's how you do it. That's how you have to look at it. Timing is key. Specifically, look at the time frame and those durations. It will lead you to your best answer. Got a bit of a long one here. I kind of like this one. As you can see, I have my applause going at the top. So it says, we are meeting with Jordan, 26 years old, graduate student, referred by campus security. We got a security guard that's telling somebody they need therapy, right? After he was found yelling at the voices in his head in the library of a study room. Over the past 8 months, Jordan has become increasingly withdrawn, stopped attending classes, and has expressed odd beliefs that professors are trying to implant ideas into his head with the Wi-Fi. So funny. He also reports difficulty concentrating, hearing whispers, even when alone, and the belief that he has a special mission from an alien race. Wow, this seems pretty interesting, right? His hygiene is noticeably poor. Says he hasn't bathed in several days. This guy's 26 years old and he hasn't bathed. So definitely got some alarming stuff that's going off, right? And his parents reported that he's a very high functioning student prior to these changes, which began gradually after he moved into an apartment by himself, right? So we got an age here, right? And we also have some time frame that's going on. And, there's like sometimes an age range from when you can say that a person, can be diagnosed with schizophrenia. So sometimes it's the age that you also can pay attention to as well. So it says, based on the information provided, what is the most likely, which one of these diagnoses is strongly presented in a vignette? So take a few minutes, look back over it again, take a look at, he's 26 years old, 8 months this stuff has been going on, and we've got a lot of symptoms that are going on here, right? We got some odd beliefs going on here. He's thinking, aliens, he's on a special mission. His teachers are trying to implant some things in his head, right? He hasn't bathed in several days. So we got a lot of stuff that's going on. So take a look at your responses, and then let's see. And we can do some we can definitely do some elimination here. I can definitely see some elimination that we can do. So then boom, here he is. I have my breadcrumbs. I have yelling voices in his head. 8 months. Express odd beliefs. Professors are trying to implant things in his head, right? So the first one, it says A, schizotypical personality disorder. We got some odd things that are going on there, right? Such as the thinking of aliens, but there are no other core features presented for that diagnosis, right? So what's strongly presented, what needs to go, what needs to be in the answer responses, right? So we got B, schizophrenia form. Symptoms don't exceed, ruled out because the symptoms don't exceed 6 months, so we get rid of it, right? And then we have delusional disorder, right? There are no bizarre delusions going on, right? There's no hallucination, disorganized behaviors, and negative symptoms. Does not have to come with the delusional disorder. So then that would automatically lead us to schizophrenia, because first of all, over the past 8 months, he's been having those symptoms, the delusions. He's hearing voices. He's got some disorganized behaviors going on, right? He hasn't bathed in days, right? So then here's the rationale. Life patterns, especially for schizotypical, his symptoms that Jordan was presenting were far too severe, too acute for personality disorder, right? Schizophrenia form, disorder, 1 to 6 months. His went 8 months, right? So schizophrenia form is what? 1 to 6 months. Jordan's was 8 months. So that would tell us that it's not schizophrenia form disorder. In fact, it is schizophrenia, because he met the 8-month mark, proceeded past the 6 months to knock out B, right? Delusional disorder. Jordan has hallucinations, and it's major to his impairment. So it can't be the non-bizarre delusions that he's having, because he's having hallucinations and everything. He's yelling at himself in the hallway or whatever, and the security guard had to walk up to him and tell him, like, hey, I think you need, therapy or whatever. But yes, when it all comes down to it and you get stuck, eliminate by looking at the duration, the symptoms. If it sticks out like a sore thumb, 9 times out of 10, it's sticking out like a sore thumb, right? You got to pay attention to it. Don't ignore what you know is not true, right? Pay attention to what you know is going to be true, and then, find your way to work your way through the next of the best responses. So again, know your diagnosis, familiarize yourself with these terms. Elimination is key sometimes. Timing, the time frame is key. Pay attention to that. You must know that. The time frames, duration, ages that are mentioned in the vignette is very important. Do not ignore that. Diagnosis in the vignette must be strongly presented before you make your best response. I cannot express it enough. When it comes to DSM-5 questions, please pay attention to the timing. Please pay attention to the duration, the symptoms, the age. You have to know this. Know your core features. Familiarize yourself with these terms. Get to know these terms. I cannot express it enough that this is only temporary. I promise you, you won't be so hard on yourself about memorizing this, because then once you are fully licensed, you can go back to that DSM-5, pick up that book and say, hey, it's this. But for right now, it's temporary. Get to know it. It's going to be a part of your life because you have not passed the marriage and family therapy exam yet.